Do you think you were more fascinated with what you could create your life into? Were you driven more by that, or were you driven more by the fear of mediocrity?
I would say the fear of mediocrity, because my ultimate, like, the way I would always think would be, I look around at everybody around me and no one was in the position that I wanted to be in. I wanted to be that guy that, would never have to look at a bill. Not saying that people I'm around like always have to go paycheck to paycheck, but I would never want to look at a bill and be like, can I pay this? I want to have any car I can possibly imagine. Basically just have the life of my dreams and be able to create that. So I knew going the traditional route wasn't going to get me there. And if it wasn't going to be till I'm about 50, 60 years old. I didn't want that. I wanted to dedicate the time now when I have the energy and the passion to just go all right into it.
Good. All right. Perfect. So we're recording. Welcome to another episode of Adversity Kings. I'll tell you how many podcasts I've done.
I saw it was like in the 4s or 5s.
In the what?
400 or 500.
I wish. I would imagine I've probably done closer to 400 gross, but net, like uploaded, is 284. So this will be 285.
Nice.
And so probably the reason I say I've easily lost 50 plus podcasts through audio corruption, video corruption. Somebody doesn't want it uploaded. I don't want it uploaded. So a combination of all those things. Yeah. And when you look at the top 1% of podcasts, it's just doing more than 20.
Of course.
So it's definitely turned into a platform that not only has exponentially grown my insurance business, because I've used social media for the last 6 years to help me grow when I was in the captive space to now even in the brokerage space, where it's like people are like, how are you able to grow? It's like, I've just leveraged social media, and the only way I was able to do that was just through patience, because I post the same stupid shit everybody else posts. Yeah. You know what I mean? I've just been consistent with it, patient with it, and honest with it. So what we got today, guys, I feel like I'm in a super yapping mood, so I'm going to try to take a breath. I'm going to try to slow down.
That's the same problem I have.
Yeah, bro. I'm a yapper. You can tell. When people talk to me, they know I'm in sales. So we've got Jareel Hampton, right?
Jareel.
I'm
going to respond either way, but Jareel is how you pronounce it.
Do you have nicknames?
So, Rel, that's like my main nickname. Jay, but it's usually like Rel or Jay. That's like the only thing I get called.
Where'd you grow up?
Maryland.
Yeah. I've been to Maryland once. I think I wasn't too toward the academies, but I feel like I saw the Navy Academy there. Yeah. So I was around that part of Maryland, and then there's some history there as well.
It's a big, like, historic area because you got DC, then you got Baltimore, like all the museums over in DC.
Crazy.
So I'm not a big fan of museums. I actually despise them. But yeah, that's really what Maryland's about if you go more so towards the DC area.
Every time you say museum, I think of Night of the Museum. Remember those movies?
I never even watched those, but I know what you're talking about.
There's a great scene in one of them. It's like, dum dum, give me gum gum. You know what I'm talking about? But something like that. Okay, so you grew up in Maryland. What was growing up for you like?
Honestly, I feel like whenever I see a podcast, people always talk about like a rough upbringing. Yeah. For me, it was, quite the opposite. Like my parents gave me a really good life. Yeah. I had private school ever since I was, I believe, first grade. Okay. I've been in private school all my life.
Like Montessori? Montessori? What type of private school?
Yeah, Montessori school.
I was in Montessori for a couple of years.
Yeah, I went to Montessori school, and then when I got into elementary school, it was, I forget the first, I think it was like a Episcopal, but then I went into a Catholic school until about 8th grade, and then my high school, I think it was Catholic as well, if I remember correctly.
Wow. Okay, and so what did your parents do growing
up? My mom was a pharmacist, dad's pharmaceutical sales.
So that was the support of you getting into sales, because I'm sitting here thinking, okay, if your education was prioritized to you having private education, why did you go to college?
No, against my parents' will.
Okay, because I'm sitting here thinking like, man, if they put such an emphasis and started investing young into your education, how did you get out of going to college?
That's a story. So my dad, actually both my parents, they were pretty dead set on where I was going, because like my sister, she went to an HBCU, Hampton University.
I went to an HBCU for a week.
What school was it?
So it's called Philander Smith.
Where's that
in
at?
Arkansas.
Yeah. So I was supposed to go to Morehouse, which is over in Georgia.
Yeah.
But what I really wanted to do for when it came to schooling, I either wanted to go to Virginia Tech with my friends or Syracuse with my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
And those were the only two options I was thinking between. But my dad was like, no, you're going to Morehouse, and that's just what it is. You're going to play football there. They're going to pay for like a portion of your schooling on the academic side. And I was just like, that's not what I want to do. However, my dad's very strict. So
Is he military?
not military, just raised by, his mother, I would say, is where it comes from.
Yeah.
What it really comes from is actually his grandfather. So it all trickles down of how strict he gets when it comes to like a certain plan for your life.
Yeah.
That's, I would say, the best way to kind of describe my father. Amazing dude. He's taught me everything I know when it comes to how to carry myself as a man.
I can tell. Very respectful. You're very well spoken.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? So I'm sitting here thinking it's like a lot of decisions and a lot of discipline were made like deep into your bloodline for you to be this end result. You know what I mean? And you're just getting started. So it's hard to say this is the end result, but like for you to get this far, there was a lot of generational discipline, that I'm like kind of like analyzing. It's like, okay, your father had to stay disciplined and make good decisions and become a good man. And, us being African American, statistically, that's not what you see. We don't talk like this. We typically don't walk like this. We don't operate like this. It's usually you're an athlete or you're a rapper.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So like when you hear like an educated black man and that's producing revenue and generating, financial wealth and different things like that, it's like, oh wow, they're selling drugs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not one of those two things. So, it's kind of like, I guess I would say unfortunate to say, because it's like a rarity. So I'm like looking, I'm like, okay, so there was a lot of disciplined people in your bloodline.
Yep.
And your mom's side as well, then it looks like.
Yeah. So my mom, from her side, my grandmother was a teacher, and then my grandfather, he's done a few things. He's actually in insurance with Prime America going all the way back, but more of his background comes from military background in the Air Force. But I would say really what cultivated where I'm at today is COVID, because during COVID, I was a sophomore in high school. Going into my junior year in high school. And I saw all these like doctors losing their jobs, like people just losing their jobs left and right. And my whole like trajectory was leading me down the path of going into pharmaceutical sales with my dad. Literally could just have the position ready for me waiting. But I saw all these people starting to lose their jobs during an unprecedented time, and we can never be prepared for that. Yeah. So that's when, TikTok was really blowing up. I saw everybody on TikTok talking about like an online store, online this, online that. I bought probably all the courses you could even imagine. Yeah. None of them worked out. Could be because of me, but that's just what it is. And then I saw that you can make money in private equity. So that's what I was going to go to college for, getting into like investment banking. But then I would say 6 months before I had to decide where I was going to college, I saw a guy on social media post that he made 80 grand in a month selling solar. And I didn't know what the heck that even meant. But at the same time, I knew I wanted to make money, and I said, whatever you're doing, I'll do it. So he said he was in California. At the time, solar, you couldn't really sell it virtually. I was over in Maryland, 17 at the time. He told me hit him back up when I'm 18. Hit him up a month later, said, yo, what do I need to do to actually get into this? And then he said, would I be willing to relocate? And I just said yes. So I made a plan to move over to California. However, my dad, being how strict as he was, took like everything away from me when he knew I didn't want to go to college. So like phone bill turned off, car, taken away, everything that I basically had just, taken away from me. So I started paying for my phone bill by myself. And that's really when I started paying bills on my own. So when that happened, I kind of went back to my mother, because my mom was like kind of my safe space. Yeah. And she was like, you know what, you just need to have the plan to at least do online school. But for now, just say you're going to college. Just say you're doing it so you can kind of relax a little bit. So I had planned the entire summer that I was going to go to California, but in my family's eyes, I was going to go to Morehouse and go play football. Not going to go to Syracuse, not going to go to Virginia Tech. I was going to Morehouse. Yeah. And then 2 weeks before I moved out to California, I was like, you know what? If I want to be a men have to stand by their word. So I just went up to my dad, told him straight up, this is what I'm doing. If you have a problem with it, that's just is what it is. But this is going to be my life, and I want to be able to create it myself. Yeah. And then, long story short, wasn't really able to stay at my house for probably 6 months after getting into sales. The last 2 weeks that I was in Maryland, I stayed most of the time at my boy's house with his family.
Yeah.
And then he drove me to the airport, off to California, and that got my sales career started.
Well, so this is incredible. Before we go into how the journey went, because I already have an idea in regard to how every sales journey goes when you first get started, what do you think gave you the courage and the confidence for you to take a leap of faith with really having nothing to your name and you to just go like balls to the wall, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to do this thing?
That's a tough question.
Do you think you were more fascinated with what you could create your life into? Were you driven more by that, or were you driven more by the fear of mediocrity?
I would say the fear of mediocrity, because my ultimate, like, the way I would always think would be, I look around at everybody around me and no one was in the position that I wanted to be in. Like, I wanted to be that guy that, would never have to look at a bill. Not saying that people I'm around like always have to go paycheck to paycheck, but I would never want to look at a bill and be like, can I pay this? I want to have any car I can possibly imagine. Basically just have the life of my dreams and be able to create that. So I knew going the traditional route wasn't going to get me there. And if it wasn't going to be till I'm about 50, 60 years old. I didn't want that.
Yeah.
I wanted to dedicate the time now when I have the energy and the passion to just go all right into it.
Fire. That's fire. So you get into solar, and how long was that?
A year and a half. That's my tenure in solar. When I got into it, that's when it felt like the transition of solar kind of going on the downhill really happened. Now that I got out of it, all the buddies that I was in solar with, they say that to me all the time. It's like, yeah, you kind of came in at a time where everybody was transitioning. It's like people are transitioning to the broker world right now, but people were transitioning to the dealer world and solar. That's when I came into solar. So the transition wasn't the easiest, but I got out there and I committed. So I'm like, I'm here. And then when I got out there, it was just a rough experience, but I'm very appreciative of the experience because that's how I am, who I am to be.
So how was the year and a half? How much you make? What did it go like?
$26,000 in a year and a half.
Wow. And then what? Like, what were your parents beating you up on it?
So I just told them I was making money. I was like, no, I'm doing good. You guys don't have to worry about me. Funny enough, I actually had a life insurance plan that I was able to pull out of that helped me later on, but not even while I was in like the solar career.
Wow.
I didn't even know about it until that point. But yeah, it was a very rough experience. Had to tell my friends that, I was making money. I didn't want to tell anybody, what I said I was going to do. I'm failing at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got out of that after finding the insurance opportunity that I'm now with.
Who crushes solar? Is it like the team leader? Is it the owner of the little distribution team? Is it can a producer crush solar? Who crushes solar?
I would say anybody can crush in solar.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different experience, but the same way as with insurance, there's a 90% turnover rate. Yeah. Same exact thing with solar. With solar, I'd actually say it's harder because you have to be where your feet are, just knocking doors every single day. And what you're more worried about is this dealer or installer actually going to pay out? Yeah. Because if the dealer actually pays out, a lot of people would probably still be in solar, but you're seeing a lot of people start to transition or even be opening to transitioning just because of the fact that they're not getting paid what they thought they sold. Yeah. I saw something crazy once where like some solar chip was malfunctioning or something and like it was messing up the entire industry. And yeah, there's a few things that are just messing up in solar. Yeah. I haven't looked into it since when I got out of it. It was basically I just left it in my rear view. But how'd you get out of it? So long story short, moved to California to start knocking. Moved over to New York. We thought it was going to be better in New York. Ultimately, it was not. Moved down to Florida. Started knocking with a different company entirely. Yeah. After 6 months in the solar business down in Florida, my buddy that got me into solar over in California said, "Hey, we're going to look into this insurance opportunity." The original insurance opportunity we were looking into was actually your old company that you were with. Yeah. Then about a week later, they're like, actually, we're not going to do that. Yeah. We're going to look at this other opportunity. So I thought we weren't just going to do it at all, but they said we're going to look into more so the broker space. Yeah. And then I hopped on the call with Eric, my mentor. Yeah. He was able to show me 30 different people all making over $10,000 a month, which granted, in my opinion, that's not that much money. That's was a lot more people, than I was making.
To be able to show 30 people making more than $10,000 a month in one place and consistently doing so, that's a rare sales business and business in general, because that's just a lot of revenue. Every 10 is 1.2 mil. So you're talking like $3.6 million of gross cash revenue just going through 30 individuals, which is incredible.
Yeah, that was the first time my eyes really turned to insurance, because beforehand, when I was knocking doors, people would say to me, you should look into insurance. And I would basically just tell them, absolutely not. You guys don't make any money. Doesn't have any of my interests comparative to what I know I could make in solar.
Yeah.
I was just having blind loyalty to the industry. Then Eric showed me that. I got my license within 5 days. Contracting took a little bit of time for me, but then my first month I just got off to the races with the plug and play process and did 13K my first month, 29 my second, 32 my third.
And shout out to Eric. He's been such a dog. I've known him for probably loosely for I feel like 2 or 3 years. I don't know, maybe 2 years, but more of a closer relationship. And he's plugged me in, and in a sense been just a good friend to me. You know what I mean? Over the last year, and just helped me do things I probably wouldn't have been able to do without being connected to Bosworth. So shout out to you, Bosworth, if you're watching this little clip. But how important would you say it is? Because it seems like sales is pretty universal. The 90% turnover is pretty much every business model in general. You know what I mean? It's like people don't stay and they'll find some place and they'll rise. But when you're looking at variables, how important is the relationship, the quality of the person that you're working with when selecting a sales job and making sure there's alignment there with that person?
I would say that's one of the most important things to find when you're finding where you want to go in the sales world.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, wherever you go in sales, if you actually put in the work, get the proper course or training, you're going to make money in sales. But when you really want to build something with yourself in sales, not just, in my opinion, get in another form of a rat race.
Yeah.
You have to find an area where you're able to actually build and have a connection with the general leader.
Yeah.
Just because if your visions don't align, ultimately you're going to have more turnover than people actually sticking with you. Yeah. And that's what, in my opinion, is way more important rather than just personal producing.
Yeah. What was your biggest personal production month in insurance?
65,000.
IP?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. When was that?
That was January.
This January?
Yep.
And what are your goals to continue to crush personal production, or do you think you're going to start to expand? Do you have a team?
Yes, I do. So funny enough, I would say first 12 months in insurance, my biggest production month was, I believe it was 39,000
wow.
or 38,000. And I was building a team at that time, but the first time I tried building a team, I just did it improperly. Yeah. It took more time off to try and train rather than just leading from the front. Yeah. Which, getting your team off the ground, I feel like you need to lead from the front before you start taking time off. It's the only way to train in any sales. Exactly.
I wish I could tell people that over and over again. Hopefully we clip this. Mm-hmm. If you are in sales and you want to train your people, make sales. If you sit there and try to train and role play and product train and script train all day long, you're going to go broke and they're going to go broke because people imitate the habit and the activity that you're doing. So if you're sitting there talking, running meetings and training all day, that's what they think that's what is going to build the business. What builds the business is dials, door knocks, selling the product. That's what builds the business. Yep. You know what I mean? Just doing the reps. So, I'm so glad that you said that because I'm working with leaders now and just trying to, gently get into everybody's minds that only real dogs in sales know you just got to sell.
Of course.
When you're building a team, sell. You know what I mean? When you don't have a team, sell.
That'll drive the team forward too. That was our biggest month happened when I had my best month as well.
Yeah, they follow your energy.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? There will come a time where it's like it's so massive it would be less beneficial for you to sell. Like it will hurt your team for you to sell when your business gets so large where it'll be. But you'll know. You'll know. It's like when your phone doesn't stop blowing up. Hey, we need help with this. We need help with that. Da 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 da. You got to put these fires out. And it's like. And a lot of people, they, I would say they kind of, I don't want to say underestimate, maybe that's the proper terminology, but they think it's way sooner than it is. You know what I mean? They think they get one person on their team. That person makes a sale their first week and they're like, oh, don't need to sell anymore.
Yeah.
Brother, I don't know how to put this, but you're being stupid. You know what I mean? There's no other way to put it.
Yeah, it's as simple as it is.
You're being flat out dumb. It's not, you probably need a solid team of 100 people. And really to get 100 people, you probably need to go through 1,000. And nobody wants to hear that because it's like MLM pyramids, but it's like,
it's what you need to do.
It is, you know,
the
it is
amount
what it
of
is.
work I went through as far as recruiting goes before I found, you know, like my first ace is just insane to me.
Yeah.
Like I do feel like I was thinking about this before I got here because I was watching a few of your other podcasts, and you said it in a video the other day of just recruiting anybody out there, anybody with the breath, you know, I'm just going to recruit them. That's something I always think of as like kind of an interesting concept that we should just recruit the world, because I don't agree with that as much, especially in the broker space.
Yeah.
Just because you can hurt yourself so much more just bringing in any...
You have more exposure, roll up debt. You
exactly.
know what I mean? Like that debt starts rolling up and you're like, and I tell people this because they hear roll up debt and they hear more exposure and they're like, oh, that's why I'll stay away from the brokerage world. When you defer risk, when you push risk away, you push reward away.
Of course.
You know what I mean? So you can't step into a greater opportunity and have more reward without you equally stepping into more opportunity for risk. So it's like, I look at it as when I'm facing a bigger battle, a bigger opponent, yes, there is more pain inevitably about to come to my life. But so what? Bring on the pain, bring on the risk, bring on the chaos, the destruction, the lonely nights, the early mornings, the losing money relationships, because I know on the other side of that is an equally proportioned opportunity for me to win just as big. And you don't get that picking small battles. You get big victories picking big battles. And that's like, I think it was an easy decision for me to realize, like, to do more, you have to take on more risk, you know? So I think it's good. But I think also, like, what costs you the most in life is bad relationships. Nothing will cost you more than spending time with the wrong people.
Of course. That's what I learned in my first 9 months as well. That's where I feel like, I don't know about the, I'm blanking on the word I want to use, but in the broker space, sorry, I didn't, the corporate world, that's what I meant to say. But I don't know. So in the broker space, your first 9 months, that tends to be like your toughest time in the insurance business. And I feel like that's where I learned every single lesson. Was in a partnership, lost that partnership, had recruits, lost recruits, had production, lost production. I saw all the highs, like the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows.
Yeah.
And in learning, or in doing all of that, what I learned was, as soon as you see, you know, either a toxic person or really just anything that's toxic in your business, you just need to cut that off right away. The longer you let it sit, the more people are going to get, you know, just infected by it. And ultimately it's going to make your business go down anyway. So you might as well just cut off early.
Who's your best person in your business right now?
Clayton.
Clayton?
Yes, sir.
What he come from?
He came from, well, he was in solar for like a few months, but he was in real estate beforehand, and then he's knocked doors for not only solar but also pests, but his main thing was real estate.
How long has he been in insurance now?
Since October.
Since October. What's his best month?
99,000 AP. I believe it came out to, I don't remember the exact number, it was like there's 60 or 70 IP.
Damn.
That was back in January as well.
Oh, so you guys crushed January. What'd your business do in January?
250.
Damn. So between you and Clayton, you did half.
That was, and that was really me, and I had a bunch of people starting up at that time. So that was between me and I think in total it was 6 people in total that we wrote that much business. So we were doing really well that month.
That's crushing. How are you guys doing now?
Doing good. Obviously you go through the highs or the ups and the downs, but however, right now we're just trying to be more consolidated with how we produce. Not so much going into, I would say just, I'm trying to think of the right word to describe the business, but it's more so getting everything out of that one lead as possible versus just getting on to the next, onto the next, onto the next. So working on that one to many is what we're working on right now. And changing lead sources.
Generating referrals, is that what you mean? And like just seeing where else you can place value. I know you guys do a little bit of health insurance and stuff
it's
like
really
that.
just maximizing the lead, because what I've learned, you know, you can produce all of this volume, but then what you can see is like the next month, all of it can charge back as well. So as I have this new amount of people coming in at all at the same time, I'm trying to teach them from the ground up. Make sure you're always pitching health, find the annuity money, get to the one-to-many market, not only asking for referrals, but you have to put on 2 beneficiaries every single time. Get their phone numbers, reach out to them, let them know their beneficiary duty, and then try and sell them a policy as well. You're losing a lot of money by just talking to one client and never talking to them again, trying to really flush out everything you can with that client to actually make them a client, not a chargeback.
1,000%. And I think that's more so how an amateur salesperson thinks. Is just quick with the commission breath. More so because they're poor. Everybody, when you first start in sales, you're poor typically. And Most of the time you're poor financially, but you're poor mentally because you're a baby, you're an infant. You've never done anything like this before. So you look at these leads or the people that you're talking to as a quick check, quick check, quick check. When you slow down and almost enter like this matrix type of mode of, you know what I mean? Like it's almost like everything's slow motion. And it's like, how do I control this situation for the benefit of the client? When you put people first, that's the best long-term business and long-term deal is like, what's the best possible product for this person? Because that's how you're going to avoid getting the business replaced. If you put the best possible product in place for the individual, you eliminate replacements to the best of your ability. But then also it's like, how else can I fill their needs? You know what I mean? And then it's very easy for you to generate those referrals and do things like that. So I think that's fire. So what's the vision look like for rest of the year? Growing the team, obviously consistently. Like, do you guys, anything exciting coming up?
I'm really just focused on growth, growing the team and being consistent across the board. I like having, the top producers, the outliers that are producing that 60 to like 90K a month.
Yeah.
But my ultimate goal is to get the minimum, all of the agents on my team minimum writing 25K a month.
Yeah.
That's bare minimum because at that point, you're really starting to see that cash flow coming into yourself to the point where you're seeing this opportunity work out for you. So that's my goal, is getting to the 25K a month for every agent that I actually bring on. And then outside of that, by the end of the year, getting the team to $1 million a month.
That's fire. Are you the top producer right now at Elevated or
top 5?
Top 5?
Yeah. Last month I took off, so I was top 10.
Yeah.
But the month before top 5.
What's your guys' business goals this year within Elevated? Top team, top producers? What do you guys see yourself doing?
When it comes to just volume?
Volume, yeah.
So as a company, our goal is really 100 million at bare minimum.
Well, no, your team.
My team.
Yeah. What do you want to do internally with Elevated this year?
Yeah, so my team internally, I at least want us to hit, I would say at least 2 million for the year, because I really see us hitting that $1 million month either by like November or December. Yeah. But collectively, I at least want to see us 2 million.
Yeah, minimum. Awesome. And what do you like to? I see you got recently. How old are you again?
I'm 20.
You're 20 years old. So yeah, dude, you
turned 21 in a few weeks though.
Young, hustling, 21 in a few weeks. Come on, dude. And operating it, and this is a compliment, operating like an old man.
Yeah.
So, but
I've always been told I'm an old soul.
Yeah, bro, old soul for sure. So, okay, cars. I see you got a Corvette and you got a G-Wagon?
Yeah, so the G-Wagon, that's my buddy's car. He was out of town for the weekend and he left it where I was living and told me to just make sure it's not just sitting at the airport. So I had it for the weekend, enjoyed, a nice time with it. But I have
What's he do?
He's my upline.
Oh, okay, cool, cool. Let's go.
Yeah, so I have the C8, then I have my old beat up Mustang, but on the side, it's always been exotic cars. That's what's really driven me, is just cars. I love the way they work. I love the way they look. I love the way they sound. So it's getting more so into the luxury exotic rental space as well. And I basically fell into the space by getting my C8, which wasn't the original intention. But once I got it, I realized I can actually make money off this car.
Yeah, so when you're not driving it, you put it on like Turo or something.
Exactly. And
Sick.
a lot of the time I'm just driving to the office and back. I'm like, I don't really care to drive this to the office and back. Someone can be making me money off of it and making anywhere between, $4 to $7 grand a month in profit off of a C8. That's crazy. Exactly. So
smart.
Right now it's getting an exhaust though, so that'll be nice when I get back.
That's sick. What's the next car?
Next from there, I want an SUV. I think between like a Escalade or like a TRX, that's where my brain always goes. But then at the same time, I just think about like a daily driver, because I rent out the C8 and all I do is go back and forth from work. So I look at just, normal trucks as well. But
what about a Lambo truck?
I thought about those too, but everybody has them.
Yeah, everybody has them.
That's like the only issue I have with it. But at the same time, I'm like, that's a statement right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody has them. So I would look at something more so probably like a Cullinan, falling more so into like my old soul. As well as if I'm trying to get as close to like a Urus as much as possible, like a Porsche Cayenne. Those would be like the main top 3 right there. Okay.
And what else do you like to do with money? Do you save, invest?
Really save. I like to see money in my account.
Yeah.
I'm not at the level I want to be at when it comes to the investments I want to make.
Yeah.
Because I want to look into really real estate investments.
Yeah,
if not
you need a
real
lot
estate
more change.
Exactly.
Yeah. Smart.
Exactly.
Super smart.
That, or like you can obviously get into the exotic car rental space with a lot less down and make a lot more on top of it, because everybody wants to, post a pic in a Lambo. Everybody wants to post a pic in a Ferrari, film a video with it, whatever they want to do. So that would be like the next course of action right there, depending on how the cards play and how the market actually looks on the real estate side to see what's the better investment. What
do your parents think now about sales and everything? How's it going?
They don't say really much about it. They just say they're proud of me. And they still talk to me about doing school, like online school. They're like, you just need like some sort of backup. And I was like, no. I just say, no, I don't.
When do you think the backup plan will leave their minds? How much do you think they need to see you make in a month?
So my first month I ever made 50 grand in a month, I showed them, they're like, that. My mom was like, no, you're not. And then I showed her the bank statement for it, and she's like, that's crazy. But you still need to have school. So I really would say maybe like 100K.
Maybe 100.
Yeah, I think that's really.
And then after that, if that don't work, you're cooked.
It's like whatever. It
is what it is.
Yeah.
Man. So do you have siblings?
I have one sister. Yep.
Older, younger?
Older.
Okay, yeah. So what does she think?
She thinks it's crazy.
Yeah.
She's always supported me. She's actually helped me out. Like when I made 26K in a year and a half, by no means can you do that only having like that money. So my sister assisted me at like really times of need, because my goal was always living off of like around $10 a day when it comes to food.
What a rider.
But my one time or two times I came home, she actually paid for my flight so I could actually come back home, see my family. Yeah, she helped me out a ton. Now I have her doing some back end things for me on the social media side.
What else does she do?
So right now she just graduated from college. Yeah. She's trying to get her master's right now, but she's in Spain abroad with her boyfriend. So yeah, they're over there until, I believe they come back in June actually. Wow. And then I'm going to try and get her fully into what I'm doing. Whether it comes to, either selling or being back end support, I know I can assist her way more than really any company out there.
Yeah. Smart, man. Super smart. What are you, what's your next, like, aside from real estate and the luxury car dealership and everything like that, what about your next like 5 years? Like where do you see yourself over the next 5-10 years? Ooh. Where are you gonna live? What's the ultimate
Fort
dream
Lauderdale
car?
is the goal.
Fort Lauderdale? Where are you at now? Tampa?
I'm in Orlando.
Orlando?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so Fort Lauderdale is really the goal. I want to have actually a few houses, but Fort Lauderdale being like the main property.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen, the personal production doesn't really drive me that much.
Yeah.
It's cool. Like once I figured out, okay, you can actually make money. You don't just suck in life. Because when I was in solar, not making any money, I was like, bro, you just are terrible. Yeah. But when I was able to see, okay, I can actually produce on a consistent level.
Yeah.
That stopped driving me as much. What started driving me was seeing people being able to change their lives. Yeah. So for Clayton, for example, I was able to see him come in and literally just sit by my side. And in his first 2 weeks produced 20 grand. And then 2 months later was able to produce 96,000 in a month. That's what drives me. When he had to sit down with me, I was like, bro, you've really been able to change my life. So it's more so impact is what I'm focused on. I want to just see how many stories I can recreate like that, because I've always seen people talk about what it feels like to impact another person's life, but I've never fully experienced it. Experiencing that was like the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
I just love other stories like me where everybody told you were going to fail or do something wrong and you're able to prove yourself right. I like to be able to create those stories and help people get there.
Here's what I want to wrap up with. So Clayton did 100,000 in a month. What would be for the insurance people and the sales guys that want to get into insurance and they want to make a bunch of money? They want to, depending on what comp they're at, you know what I mean? Like, let's say to get close to making 100,000, like they make 100,000 a month. What would their schedule look like? What would the perfect schedule look like?
You got to be dialing a good amount.
Like, what time would I start dialing? I'm sitting here, hey, I want to beat Clayton. I want him to do 100,000 next month. What schedule?
Yeah, I mean, if you're starting anywhere past 8 a.m., you've already failed, in my opinion. I think the East Coast is the most primal spot to dial. Not as far as like where you have to be at, but as far as the leads you're dialing. Yeah. You just have so many people that are on their way to work between that 8 to 9 a.m. threshold during each prospective's time zone. Yeah. So if you don't start at 8 a.m., you can basically just kiss goodbye to anywhere between $1,000 to $3,000 if you start at 9, 10, and every hour you push back, you're just pushing away more money. Okay. And then on the back end of it, a lot of people like to say, oh, they're probably with their families right now during the second prime time between like that 6 to, I would say, 8 p.m. mark. That's the best time to call somebody. It's the same way as, if you're knocking doors and you're getting into phone sales. When people are home, that's when you want to call them.
Yeah.
Anywhere between that 8 a.m. to, I'll say, like 1 p.m. time. And then on the back side of it, anywhere between that 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. each person's time zone.
Yeah.
If you're calling all of those hours and making sure you do that one-to-many market, because that's what Clayton was doing, he had a ton of referrals. I think off one referral, he was able to write $30,000 in total off of one referral.
Wow.
Or one client that gave him enough referrals to get to that $30,000 is what I mean.
Yeah.
So that would be your schedule right there, and just making sure you're emphasizing everything that you can actually help the client with, not just the life insurance.
How many leads do you think someone should be buying a week of decent leads? The brokerage world is pretty open in regard to like marketing and lead quality. So like how many leads should I get a week? 100, 200?
So Clayton was only on like 50 leads a week.
Wow.
But they're 50 high intent leads.
Yeah.
So a lot different, but he was only on 50 leads a week at that time.
Yeah.
That's not going to work for everybody, because not everybody's going to get that, one referral that can change. Like you only need, in life insurance, and really just in any industry, but in life insurance, your schedule or your outcome can go from 0 to 100 really quickly. And that month kind of changed everything for him, just because of the consistency behind it.
Yeah.
So I would say bare minimum 50 leads per week.
Yeah.
But if you really want to start seeing some volume, anywhere between that 50 to 100 leads per week, you'll start really seeing the money.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else you want to add to your story, to the insurance game, anything?
Not really. I think we touched on, a good amount of things. The only thing I'll touch on is something I think about every single day, is like the amount of people I see fail in this industry and then go somewhere else and talk down on the insurance industry. Yeah. That's the only thing I'm really not a fan of. Because you suck, bro, doesn't mean everybody else needs to.
Yeah, literally.
I just highly advise anybody looking to get into the insurance space, all you have to do is outlast the guy next to you. That's all you have to do. I just need to outlast you, and I'm going to win eventually.
It's actually really good that you said that, because I think of sometimes I wonder if I'm being too aggressive to the captive space, because I made a couple $1 million in the captive space. But
that was the word I was looking for earlier.
I try to remind individuals, I'm factual, and I don't discredit the money that I made in the captive space, the relationships, the good ones that I developed, and the mentorship that I received. So I think of it like this way. I don't think kids, and I guess I'll just call them kids, but like I don't think guys go from, the NCAA playing D1 football, go to the NFL and completely like shit on college football.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Like that's the place that built you, but when you look back in the rearview mirror, you realize you would never go back to college.
Of course.
Kind of like you considering going back to high school or going back to middle school. You wouldn't go back. And so I think for me, I try to balance out, okay, here's what I learned, here's what I got, here's what I'm going to factually state. So when people are ready, I think people should start, and I want to call it, I don't know, like a practice company. I think people should start.
I think it's a
get
great
practice
idea for sure.
if you need it. Like I needed it. So like I got to practice. I didn't know anything.
You make a lot of money doing so
too. Yeah. So it's like I give respect and honor there. But like one thing I don't agree with is, like you said, when people just completely, especially without facts, you know what I mean? Just completely shit talk something. Made no money, have no respect, and still go out and shit talk, then it's just kind of like, man, you're just kind of soft.
Exactly. I mean, I like what you said, though, because I've always thought about that as like what got you here isn't going to get you there.
Yeah,
at some point in life, you're going to have to make that change.
You got to step into the ocean, man.
Exactly.
I think of like Nemo in the fish tank. If you want to be a big fish, man,
you got to go out there. I literally have a tattoo like that right here.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's
hardcore.
Not Nemo, but it's a
he's got Nemo on the ribs. That's how hardcore he is. Okay, awesome. Guys, hey, this was another episode of Adversity Kings 285, I believe, on Spotify. It'll probably be like 250s, 260s on YouTube. But we had Jareel Hampton. And if you guys are interested in learning more about insurance, where can they find you?
On Instagram, _Jareel, that's JAREEL, and then Hampton, like the Hamptons.
So I said it wrong again. It's Jareel?
Yeah, so it's Jareel.
I thought it was Jareel.
How it's spelled, and I can run that up with my parents. How it's spelled is pronounced like, it would look like it's Jareel, but it's Jareel.
Okay.
And then as far as phone number, 301-674-0270.
And guys, remember, this is if you want to learn not only about getting life insurance for your family, but also if you're interested in a life insurance career. So I believe that Jareel could help you with either one of those, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, awesome. So guys, another episode of Adversity Kings. Hope you guys had a blessed day. Peace.